Hey, Thumpers, welcome to another film review from Hyper RPG. Today we are here to review Dawn for the Planet of the Apes.
Dawn for?
Oh, damn it. Fuck.
It's war. You looked it up and everything.
Looked it up. I was like, is it war of
you
the
just
planet or
totally
war
had a
for?
dyslexic moment that I usually have. You just looked it up on your phone. War
Bitch.
for the Planet of the Apes. Keep it. Keep it.
Yeah.
Count
War
it.
for the Planet of the Apes. Directed by Matt Reeves. This is the third film in a trilogy.
Did he direct all three?
No, Rupert Wyatt directed the first one, and then Matt Reeves took over the second one.
That's right.
Came in very late in the game, and it basically asked them that he asked 20th Century Fox if he could kind of tell the story his way. And then this one is pretty much him, you know, really developing the story and and figuring out what the arcs are going to be for the characters from a much longer period of time compared to what Dawn of the Planet of the Apes was. So titles are a little backwards. It should technically be Dawn of the
Rise.
Apes, but, you know, whatever.
I mean, you didn't get the whole thing at the beginning where it was kind of like Rise of the Planet of the Apes, Dawn, War. There was this weird thing. Is this a spoiler or non-spoiler? Spoiler? Okay, so right at the beginning, I chuckled a little bit because it was like, here's some text explaining what's happened to get us to this point. And in the 3D especially, it was like an out-of-focus shot of the forest, and then boom, text slams in your face, and they would highlight the word Rise, and then everything else disappears, and they'd highlight the word Dawn, and then War, and I was like, yeah, okay, I know what I'm in for now. I chuckled a little bit because it felt a little heavy-handed, but that's exactly what the movie was.
Yeah, I think also for people who maybe have not, because this is one of those weird franchises that when it's not in theaters, people forget about it. When it's in theaters, people are like, "Oh yeah, I forgot that Fox makes these ape movies."
Yeah, nobody was there tonight. Opening night.
Really weird, and it's
really
so weird
weird
because when I booked the tickets, all the seats around us were filled,
but no one was there.
People forgot, or I don't know what the deal is. Very surprised though, because the last movie, people generally really liked the last movie, and some people even liked the first one. I was one of those people that I didn't love it, but I liked it enough that I was interested to see where the story would go.
See, for me, the first one was especially a rent it. I did see it in theaters, and I was like, I wish I would have rented that. I just couldn't stand 2 hours of James Franco. Only once in a while.
Yeah.
Only once in a while, and he didn't connect with me in that film at all. I enjoyed the second one a lot more. I don't know if I like the second one or this one more. I feel like I should like this one more, but there was more things in the second one that I thought were working better to me.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, the second one, I really enjoyed the second one a lot. Then this third one, I guess my expectation was going into it, I was kind of expecting more of what the second movie was. And I didn't realize that the movie, I guess I should have, because it is called War for the Planet of the Apes, that the stakes would be elevated and that there would be a lot more emotion in the movie. And
Lots of emotion.
I will say, from one of the very first scenes of the movie, I got really emotional and teary-eyed.
Really? I'm a black pit of nothing.
You are.
The music was trying really, really hard to tell me, you're supposed to feel this right now. And I think that actually worked against me a little bit. I think the music was a little too heavy-handed for me. The score was pretty heavy-handed. But, I mean, that being said, Andy Serkis is next level. He's next level. I care way more for Caesar than any human in any of these movies.
Oh, absolutely.
Because he kills it. He kills it. He's great. So I felt those moments. I really did. I felt those moments. The movie, to me, it was a weird movie in a way. Like, it had a weird pacing, a weird structure. Like the middle and third act, like, to me, the structure was very strange. The pacing felt really strange. But I'm getting way ahead of myself here. There were some moments at the beginning that were very impactful, and I do appreciate that they just went for it.
Yeah. I think that's kind of how the second movie was too, right? We kind of jump in.
Yeah.
And it's kind of action. And it was funny because I was watching a lot of interviews with Matt Reeves, and he was saying there's not a lot of action in this movie. But I feel like when they hit action, it was almost to a 10.
And it happened right at the beginning.
Yeah.
And actually, it made me feel like the movie had a lot more action than it did because it jumped right into it.
Exactly.
But that being said, my favorite part of the film was that middle act when it's the four of them just traveling. Maybe we should set up the film first. Should we do that? I don't know how you guys usually with the reviews. Do you do a synopsis? Do you break into it? You just talk about it?
Yeah, we just
so
talk
in the middle,
about
I really liked
it's a spoiler review, so we kind of go into it with the assumption that the audience has seen it. If it's a non-spoiler review, we give more context. But if you're watching this,
if you've seen it, I really like that middle act where it's just the four of them. They're traveling. I felt the most for those characters when they were all together, and then when they met their new friend, I thought that was great. And the rest of the theater did too. That was definitely the part, that character hit really hard for everyone. And he was very needed in the film because it was a very bleak movie.
Yeah.
Very bleak.
Yeah. And I think that's, up to that point, like very emotional, and you're very much kind of just invested in the story. You're not really, you're so concerned with every character. There really is no balance, no levity. And then this character comes in, played by Steve Zahn. What was it? Bad Ape?
Bad Ape.
Bad Ape. And he just immediately changes the dynamic of the movie. But I think it works so well because I think if that movie continued to just be what it was, it wouldn't feel as balanced as I think his character helped make the movie feel. Because all those other characters, they are very emotional. There are a lot of stakes, especially for Caesar. He wants to get revenge for what happens to his family, to his son and his wife.
He's Kubo now.
Yeah, he's is Koba now.
Koba?
Koba.
Okay.
Not
Koba.
on the two strings.
You're so right. I'm glad you caught it before YouTube comments did.
But I think what that does is it adds a little more humanity to those characters too. I mean, they are apes, but because of their evolution, especially because of Caesar, how he continues to evolve more and more, his intelligence and everything sort of evolves. I think it kind of rounds out that group really, really well.
Yeah, I think it does too. And it was good to have another. I thought that was the right moment to introduce another ape that could talk.
Totally.
Even if in a really funny way. And his character was great. And I think I honestly thought I was going to be annoyed with the character just because that is a cliche of modern action movies and things like that. Oh, you gotta have that character in there. And this movie really needed it though, because it's a freaking sad ass movie, man.
It's very sad. I mean, literally every time something very emotional would happen, I got super emotional. I was really invested to the emotion of the movie, and there was moments where I got teary eyed. And it's even when characters die that don't necessarily have the most screen time, but just what they did 5 minutes before are so emotionally impactful that when they die, you really feel it.
Yeah,
you really feel like when the I forget what the ape's name was that gave the girl the flower. But when he puts, I was like, it just,
that was another good moment. I actually thought that was a really good moment. I thought I thought the girl did a great job.
She was great.
It's hard to emote without words, and she did a great job.
Especially because just based on the credits, it said introducing and the actress's name. If this is her first movie, and to have to interact with actors that are obviously not in costume, they're in these tracking marker costumes. That's not the easiest thing to do.
I'm gonna say it. I thought she did better at reacting to that than Woody Harrelson did.
Yeah,
I wasn't. I told you before the movie started, my favorite Woody Harrelson movies are when he gets to be a little unhinged and a little deranged. Yeah. And I was really excited to see this one because he was in it and because the trailer had already shown us that was the type of character he was gonna be. And I didn't buy it.
Yeah,
I just didn't. It didn't land for me.
Everything that we saw Woody Harrelson in the trailer,
that's everything.
That's kind of everything, and we see like the very, very high point of his emotion, and then you see little bits and pieces of him and Caesar fighting in the waterfall, which isn't even the end of the movie. That's so early in the beginning.
So early, and nothing really happens in that scene.
No.
In the trailer, the way it's portrayed, you really think that's going to be this moment where there's this standoff and everything. But I did like how it happened in this because it was such an emotional moment for Caesar.
Totally.
But you think you're going to get a lot more of him, and really you just get the feeling of him, his presence. But I was so not intimidated by him as a character that his presence, once we actually met him and got to talk to him, I was no longer threatened by him.
Yeah.
Because it felt like Caesar's on another level. This guy isn't Caesar's, like...
Not even in his wheelhouse.
Yeah, he's not Caesar's. In the way he set it up too, Lee and and everything. He's all going through all the famous general battles in history and saying that this is history right here and this is a monumental moment and all these things. And I was like, I don't know. I'm not feeling, man. I feel like Caesar's got you way beat because they're showing, I feel like if you're gonna show a character being that powerful, and that much resolve and that much willpower like Caesar has, his adversary needs to have a similar trait, but with that evil, the willpower match with the evil and stuff like that. And we didn't really get that. It was just menacing.
Yeah. And it was interesting because going into the movie, I almost thought that Woody Harrelson's character was going to end up being someone who was Colonel, but was really someone who was just seeking vengeance against the apes because of the death of his son or because of the infection of his son. I didn't actually think that he was going to be somebody who is someone who like rose up through the ranks who really was a colonel. I thought it was going to be kind of like this false image that they built up of this character in the trailer. But that's not the case. And yeah, I feel like there was something lacking a little bit. And I feel like they tried to really build up those two characters to have a similar sort of path with Caesar and the apes and the intelligence of the apes and how that kind of, even though it was a beneficial thing for the apes, it ultimately like kind of leads to their downfall or the hunt for the apes. Whereas Woody Harrelson, you know, it's all about his son and how he gets infected and how he has to kill him, and that the very thing that he's trying to beat is the thing that ends up killing him. So I think like his death worked for me for the most part, but I feel like there could have been a little more developed around him to make me feel it more.
Yeah, and I don't know. I had a problem with the overall de-evolution concept in and of itself.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of on the fence because there's things I really liked about the film. I liked in some ways how the film felt classic. It doesn't feel the same as a lot of modern action films that are summer blockbusters right now, which is kind of refreshing. But I didn't like that story setup because it just felt like they just kept hammering home this idea. Like he even says, first it was the virus. I'm like, yeah, we got that. And it wiped out most of humanity. And they made it so heavy-handed already in all three of these films that humanity will be its own end. Humanity will be its own end. But then when you take that away and say, now the virus is morphed, and it's de-evolving us, and we're turning stupid. Well, you've already shown us the girl isn't stupid.
Right.
You know, she's sick, but she's not
sick,
stupid.
But she does adapt.
Exactly. She adapts. And I know that could just be he doesn't see that, and it's just whatever. But it just felt like this layer that was really heavy-handed overall. And then the way the film ended with the avalanche, which is just this icing on the cake of nature is gonna win. And I liked the message a little bit more that man will destroy itself.
Yeah.
And nature, like he said, we started this.
Right.
Man started it. And they are their own destruction, not the apes, not random happenstance of nature, like themselves, each other. And I thought that would have been a stronger message. Like I liked when they were getting away and the humans started killing each other. And then I thought that whole Woody Harrelson bit was kind of unnecessary because like they're killing each other. They're going at it. For what?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I think the other thing too is in terms of the whole subplot of de-evolution for humans, maybe, and like this is me just thinking about as a general movie-going person, for somebody who has not seen Rise or not seen Dawn, I feel like maybe some of that stuff was heavy-handed because I think Matt Reeves and that creative team is very aware that it's ape movies. They're Planet of the Ape movies.
They need to be able to self-contain.
Yeah, because it's not a Star Wars, it's not a Marvel where like everyone watches these movies. It is something that like very particular audiences will watch and follow. People like us will obviously watch it. A lot of people who are watching this video have watched and followed the series. But somebody like my mom and my brother who are not exactly people who like rush the movies, I have to tell them you need to go watch this movie because. And if they don't have all that context, then I feel like they're going to walk out of the movie going, I don't get it. Like, what happened? And I don't think this movie necessarily gives you every single beat of what happens before it. It gives you a prologue.
Some.
Yeah, it gives you a prologue.
Koba shows up a couple times.
Exactly.
You feel that he did something there. And
right. I feel like if anything, if you're a general movie-going person who hasn't necessarily seen all the first two movies, you hopefully will be intrigued to go back and be like, oh, where did this start? Hopefully. In terms of the man versus nature or the nature winning, I still do feel like it was man ultimately.
Well, yeah, they
himself.
Caused the avalanche. They caused it.
But
just
sure. I mean, it's done in a different sort of manner than you would kind of expect. You would think that it would just be man killing man, apes getting away, and apes ultimately, being free. I didn't mind it so much, but I can see why people would not be a fan of that.
Yeah, I mean, I do like what you say though about it being self-contained, because if I hadn't seen the other two movies, I probably wouldn't mind that as much, honestly, because it does help contain it.
Right.
Because if you haven't seen them, giving it that context of like, okay, why can't the girl talk? Why is he so?
Right. It's
blah,
a tough
blah.
balance, right? Because you're going into a franchise that like people know historically because it's so well known from 40 years ago, but maybe they just don't follow it. So it's like it's that tough balance of we have to give people this information, but people who have seen it might be like, you're really just like shoving this in my face. I don't need all this context. But I will say, and yeah, I think what you were saying earlier about Andy Serkis, unreal.
Yeah, I mean, I think I absolutely loved the first 30 minutes of the film. Everything that was happening in the forest. Actually, probably the first hour and a half. I didn't think the film started to suffer until we got to the army base, and we were stuck there in the camps, and and it just had this. It just dragged for me there, and maybe it was because the human characters were so uninteresting.
Sure.
And this is the main antagonist, and I just didn't find them interesting at all. And I liked them traveling together, and I liked the beginning and that first fight at the beginning, you know, to establish all that, and them riding into battle on the horses was pretty cool.
That was rad.
It was super cool. And then, you know, just the very brief moment you see him with this family and how quickly that gets ripped away from him. I thought that was really great. Because you're just like, oh, his son's back and shit. That was really good. I liked all that a lot. So I don't want to totally shit on the film because I enjoyed those moments a lot.
Yeah, well, I think that is part of the problem of a movie that moves so well for like the first hour, and then you get stuck in one spot. You don't
literally, they're stuck.
Yeah, you literally don't move out of that spot. And I actually did think that the movie was going to continue to advance, and they would maybe go to a new location, or if not a new location, just continue advancing towards where they were going and fighting the battle on the way there. But yeah, this movie literally just like sits itself in this base. And you're there for, I don't know, it's like a good 45, 50 minutes of the movie.
Yeah, it's a good chunk.
It is a good chunk. And you actually made a comment, which is very valid.
Oh, I got to bring this up, man. I got to bring this up. It's an army base. There's lights everywhere. They can't see shit. And you show us people everywhere.
Yeah.
It'd be one thing if the base looked deserted at night because there weren't many men and women at the base. It's packed. Yeah. When they show all the people lined up at the beginning, I'm like, where the fuck are all of them at night?
How did no one notice that all these apes are gone?
All the apes are gone. Not only that, but when the little girl's walking around and she's just walking through the lights, no one sees it. And that continuity of that scene really bothered me too, because she started walking forward and then a lot of time passed and all of a sudden he's bad ape is like, oh, she's in there. And it's like, what the fuck? She walked up there forever. Was she just standing out in the middle of the field for a long time and nobody saw her?
Yeah.
There was, and when they were releasing the children, the young apes and running around the camp and everything, they literally show us lights moving around all the time. Who's operating those? What the fuck are they pointing at? Nobody sees anything.
Yeah.
It was like playing Splinter Cell on the easiest difficulty.
Yeah, that was the only, like, that was the biggest thing for me watching the movie, especially in that whole sequence of like, how has nobody noticed? And it's not until the base is being attacked that the soldiers are running, and then that one soldier.
It's the one dude, and they did that because it's the one guy.
Right, the one guy
that
like
we're supposed to be like
walks
ooh.
in, and like still nobody knows the apes are gone, and I'm like, I guess their priorities have completely changed, but like, how has nobody noticed?
And then there was also the continuity of them escaping because they showed so many of them getting away, and
I was so confused with how many of them were getting killed.
Exactly, and then the timing was really weird, and then later, all of a sudden, they see them down there escaping. I'm like, wait, weren't they already all gone?
Yeah, that's what
they got away before. So there was some weird continuity and editing stuff happening there at the end.
They made it just look like it was most of the adults who had stayed behind. Got a lot of them get killed, and all the children up at the top of Maurice. But this movie, and we saw it from the trailers. The visual effects were
unreal,
like
so good.
If you're a Marvel, DC, a Star Wars, or whatever, you need to watch this movie. And
they're not even close.
And it's crazy because Weta does a lot of the visual effects for the DC movies, and I'm like, nothing that you do looks as good as Planet of the Apes.
It's very true. Nothing they've done looks that good. Because, I mean, you think about all the different environments that they're in, all the different interactions, and how good it looks in every situation. And how a lot of those movies are like, all right, just put it in the fucking dark.
Right.
You know, put a cape on it so it's harder to see everything. Like, it's just make explosions, shroud a lot of the action with that. They show you this stuff. I mean, them riding on horses all the time and, fighting and everything. Like, it's good.
There's a point where Maurice meets the little girl in the room. And
where his face gets like really close.
I'm like, holy fuck, how is this not real?
Dude, yeah. That fork
Iron Man, in 15 movies, Iron Man has never looked as real as Maurice did in that one
shot.
It's incredible.
That was you forget. It's so good, you forget.
Yeah.
And that to me is the real beauty of these films. You do believe that these apes are speaking in their real and that they're sign language and then they're real. You start believing it. You are bought in. You buy into it completely.
And I think that's part of the thing that really helps it is the fact that not all the apes can speak. only Caesar, and then we meet Bad Ape in this movie who can talk.
Oh, but Maurice at the end, he's getting it.
Like some of them know a few words, but it's this. I think it's really the sign language, the mannerisms, the movements, just like I don't know, like you feel the weight. A lot of times when you see these characters that are digital, and a lot of it's because there's no reference. They just put these characters on there, and they just look really lightweight, and they don't feel like they have any bones in their body. These apes really felt like they had bone, muscle, like everything. It was unreal. It was unreal. For the performance stuff, when I hear Andy Serkis talking about how like we don't need another category for motion capture. Like we are actors. This is our craft.
And what's really interesting is thinking about each film, and like they do a great job in this one just establishing he's still learning and he's still growing.
Absolutely.
So if it bothered you the way he speaks in the last one, he's clearer in this one. He's much more articulate.
Yeah, it's a 2-year time gap. So in 2 years, he's evolved along with the other apes. And you definitely see that. Yeah, once he started talking, you're like, wow, he's really been developing. And even, I don't remember which, it might have been Woody Harrelson's character who says, like, those eyes, like, you even look more human. It's really interesting. I actually
you really are impressive.
Yeah, you really are impressive. The score for the movie, even though it is a bit emotionally heavy-handed, I
liked a lot of the stuff.
Yeah.
I liked most of the scenes. It was when it got emotional. There was some stuff they're doing, like the little like fairy sparkle sound effect.
Right.
I don't know why they kept using it. Anytime a sun was rising or something was supposed to be happy, it's like, and I'm like, what the hell? Why? But I hate joy, so I don't. It's just me. It's just me.
Dark person.
Right, but I thought it was really good in spots. I don't want to. I don't want to totally shit on it.
For sure.
It's easy for me to sound like I hate things. I enjoyed it. I had a good time.
I live here.
I know. I had a good time.
Yeah, I had a really great time. I mean, I guess I did enjoy the movie more than you did. I really, really liked this movie, and I was honestly just really surprised at how emotionally invested I was. And even though not all the emotion hits with all the characters, when you see these apes in pain or just distraught, and you look at them and you see their emotion, like it jumped right out of the screen and hit me in the face.
Oh yeah,
so
it
hard,
does.
like
and I wonder how long you can. Do you ever start to feel uncomfortable because the human characters are so underdeveloped and you're not supposed to really care for them?
No, I mean I think
and they over dramatize every single ape death, very, very much so.
They do, and I don't know, like it doesn't bother me in that sense, and I feel like it's purposely done that way because those apes are the main
They're the protagonists. Yeah, I'm playing devil's advocate here. I'm okay with it.
For sure. Yeah, and I think that's kind of the point is you are supposed to really buy into it and really believe in it. Sometimes it doesn't need to be as heavy-handed as it sometimes is, but I mean, there are beautiful little character moments with some of those apes, and then they die, and you're like, fuck, they're in the beginning of the movie, but you have like one little tiny moment with them that you really are on their level of emotion, and then they die, and you're like, I don't know, it just hit me like a tidal wave sometimes. I haven't cried that much since like Logan, I think.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, God, I didn't even think about shedding a tear once. I didn't even get close.
It got me.
I think I cried more in Spider-Man.
You fucker.
That's just because it felt.
Because you love Spider-Man.
It felt so good. I was like, oh God, Peter.
You're hot aunt. Overall, I think this is a really solid trilogy. I've really enjoyed all these movies. I would say that maybe this one edges out the last one a bit. And
I think I like the second one most.
Really?
Yeah,
I think I would probably call this one my favorite. But I do have to go back and revisit it. I haven't actually seen it since like once it came out on Blu-ray in 2014. So it's been 2-3 years since I've seen it.
Is that how far back the second one was?
2014, yeah. And then the first one came out in 2011.
Yeah.
So it's been a while.
It's a good trilogy, though.
It is a good trilogy. Other interesting thing, it's been 6 years in real time that these movies have taken place. But in the context of the film series, it's been like 15 years already.
Wow, really?
Yeah, in the prologue, I'm pretty sure it's at 15 years.
Damn.
So that's kind of crazy to see, like, how long it's taken Caesar and these apes to really develop, or mostly Caesar.
He had quite a bit of gray in him this one.
Yeah. So overall, love the movie. I thought it was really, really good. Emotion hit me surprisingly a lot more than I thought it was going to. I thought it ends really well. Now I'm so curious to see where this movie goes. It leaves in a little bit of a cliffhanger. Like, we all assume that Caesar is dead. They play it up that Caesar is dead. But
dude, he's dead.
But I'm so curious to see if Cornelius, his little son, will now take over, if he'll now lead the pack.
Are they planning on doing more?
I don't know. I mean, a lot of people are saying that this really bookends this trilogy beautifully. So I'm curious if they do another one. I don't know if Matt Reeves would come back and do it. I mean, I feel like he's kind of told the story of Caesar, which is the character that he kind of.
So you want him to just jump forward in time and do where they've built their society, and then you get the rogue human that shows up?
Then that's the thing that kind of worries me. I love where this movie ended so much that I'm afraid of them going back and touching it and doing another like 10-year time jump with an older Maurice and a Cornelius who's like grown up and all this kind of stuff. I hope it wouldn't. If they do it, I hope it just doesn't hurt what these first 3 movies did. But you know what? There's like 6 or 7, 8 movies from the 60s and 70s.
That's a lot, dude.
So
Malik and I were talking about it, and it's like there's one with the underground people and all the other stuff, and it's like, oh yeah, it gets weird.
I mean, they could really, they could honestly at some point just remake that first one and tie it into this series, but I don't know how that would work. I don't know. We'll find out. But you would give this, I assume you would give this a watch.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I still had fun at the movies. Yeah. I mean, there was some. It's worth seeing to me for the visual effects alone.
Totally.
The first hour and a half. I think I just got really let down by the main antagonist in the film.
Right.
You know, and some of the heavy-handedness there. But overall, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, had a really good time. Thought the cinematography was actually really great too. I loved. It was like it had not a unique color, but it just. To me, it stands out with all the other movies that we normally see. It has something that like superhero movies don't have. It has something that other big franchises don't have. It feels, aside from the Apes itself, it has like this like independent film quality to it. Aside from like the massive,
I would actually agree with that, and that's part of what gives it kind of a weird tone that you don't expect. You think it's going to be a big blockbuster summer movie, but it really doesn't have that feeling to it.
No.
Not at all.
It really relies on the characters.
Yeah.
And some of it does better. It treats some characters better than the others, but overall, it is driven by Caesar, by the other apes, and kind of like what their mission is, which is to be free and to not be at war with the humans. So I thought all that was done really, really well. Overall, I loved it. I thought the 3D, for the majority, was done really, really well. There was a few moments where I spotted some things and things were out of place and some really weird things. But overall, I think that's the stuff that you guys won't notice. But I will say I don't think it's necessarily a movie that I have to see in 3D.
Yeah.
I think I would have just appreciated a regular 2D experience. Does it make the apes feel a little more realistic? Yes. But I think the performances and the motion capture and the actual visual effects, the art of it sells it just enough that if you don't see it in 3D, it's not really going to change the experience of the movie.
I would agree.
Yeah. Well, that's going to wrap it up for this review of War for the Planet of the Apes. I got the title right that time. Guys, let us know in the comments what you thought about the movie. We'd love to hear everything that you have to say, whether you liked it, whether you didn't like it, or if you loved it as your favorite of the trilogy, and where could this franchise go?
I want to know, where's it going to go? We're going to get ground people? We're going to get future civilization of apes and
so
random
curious.
Spaceman comes down, and
it's going to be very interesting if they
I'd be cool.
That would be cool. Guys, also make sure you guys check out our Patreon. Patreon.com/hyperrpg. We're doing a whole bunch of content right here on YouTube, youtube.com/hyperrpg.
And be on the lookout all next week for San Diego Comic-Con coverage.
We're doing a bunch of Comic-Con coverage. It's going to be a packed weekend for us.
Yeah. It's going to be nuts.
God.
We're gonna die.
We're going to die. We're going to come back and we're going to be like, we're dead. Also, make sure you guys check out the Twitch channel, twitch.tv/hyperrpg.
Yep.
So many
lots
hours
of exciting
of
announcements coming up for you guys soon in regards to just keep an eye on the Comic-Con coverage. It's going to be a good time.
Good time. We'll see you guys in the next review. Bye.